Hi, my name is Autumn Payne. This is Max. I am going to talk about Mary Rowlandson and her published work, The Sovereignty and Goodness of God. So first off, before we get started, I'm actually going to define what sovereignty of God means and what a captive narrative is. So captive narrative is what primarily Mary Rowlandson's work is a captive narrative. So we'll start with that first. So captive narrative basically means it's the story of someone who's held captive in her journey or his or her journey through that process and their documentation of it. Whether it's 100% history or fable, we can say either way, but it is a captive narrative. It's their journey in between. And then I'm going to define what sovereignty of God is, because that's a really big word, and sometimes big words are hard to understand. But so for this one, sovereignty of God basically means it's a John Calvinist kind of idea that they formed back in like the 17th, 18th century. But basically what it means is the sovereignty of God. So basically no matter what happens in life, good, bad, or in between, that God is in complete control of it. So no matter where you are in your life circumstance, God is still working. He is still present, and in that process or struggle, He is still working for the good. So Mary believed this throughout her journey through the sovereignty and the goodness of God in the writings. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. So first off, Mary, her story kind of starts where she got on a ship, came from England, came here, and she lived in Salem, Massachusetts Bay Colony with her husband and her 4 children. And then all of a sudden there was a raid that came. There were some tensions between the Native Americans and the English anyways, and it just kind of exploded and happened from there. But the Native Americans came and demolished their town and killed people, like gutted people in front of Mary. And they killed some of her children, and she actually even shot through her, like a bullet went flying through her hip, and she was holding one of her children, and it went through one of her children. I think that child's name was Sarah, and I think she was 6 at the time. So that she's carrying the baby, they're going and they're trekking through the woods. The Native Americans give her an option that she can come with them and live and be their slave, or they could kill her on the spot. She chooses to go with them because she believes that God's in control no matter what. So her baby girl dies in her arms on the journey, and some other tragic things happen where she almost starves to death a couple of times. She's mistreated by one of the women, the Native American women that was over her, more like her slave master there. And no matter what circumstance it was, she just kept clinging to the Bible, saying that that was her source of life and that God was providing for her. And it's crazy accounts where she was like sleeping by a tree and then all of a sudden find some food there or some berries or like along her journey. So every step of the way she kept pointing back and back and back to like the goodness of God was still present in all of those struggles. So I think that's one of the coolest parts of her writings. If you haven't read it or haven't heard of her, you should definitely check it out. It's a bit of a big read, but it's absolutely worth it. There is some debate, however, if Mary Rowlandson's story is 100% true or if it's a fable with a good intent. And there's still people debating that, and I'm sure we'll never really know. But the cool thing I think is no matter where we are in culture, we can learn something from it. Is that whether Mary's story is true or not, that it was remarkable, and that this person, if it was a fable character or a historical character, had the courage enough to continue on and believe that it was going to work out no matter what. If you believe in God or not, it worked out, and she lived, and she came home to her husband. They bought her out of slavery. She lived a great life after that. She actually got, I think, most of her children back. There was 4 children, 1 died, and I believe the other 3 were found in the end. So with that said, thank you so much for listening, and if you haven't checked out Mary Rowlandson's published work, The Sovereignty and Goodness of God, you definitely should, and any captive narratives are really great. So thanks so much.